Yuki is an overpowered demon who turns humans into roadkill for fun. However, after falling in love with a beautiful priestess, he betrays demonkind and starts a new life as a human adventurer just to simp for her kitty every day. This story starts on a dark, lonely night outside the Demon Lord's castle. A party of 4 led by the hero named Yuga has just shown up to save all of humanity by defeating the Demon Lord. They rush in, expecting to meet a colossal beast, but it's just Yuki, yapping about how they have to beat him first. Mikana immediately shoots a fireball, but Yuki easily neutralizes it, which shocks her. Levin then charges in to attack, but after dodging, Yuga sends her flying with a kick. Seeing this, a priestess named Cecilia replenishes Yuga's powers so he unleashes the true power of Excalibur. However, Yuki easily blocks it again before knocking them all out. Instead of chopping their heads off, he heals them, but while doing so, he takes a close look at Cecilia's glistening drumsticks and realizes that she is the girl of his dreams. Just then, his subordinates call him a creep for staring before asking for permission to unalive the party. After denying the allegations, he tells them to dump them at a nearby human village, and they warn him that the generals might get upset. 1 month later, General Zakil summons Yuoki for a meeting with the Demon Lord because he has fought the heroes' party 13 times and refuses to unalive them. After Zakil and the other demon general mock him for being a useless weakling, the Demon Lord asks Yuki why he refuses to unalive the heroes' party. Yuki then says it would be pointless to unalive weaklings like them, so the Demon Lord decides to have his subordinates do it. Yuki immediately recalls how weak his subordinates are, so he promises to finish the job by himself and returns to his room. While in bed, he reminisces on his fights with the party and notes that the only reason they haven't defeated the Demon Lord is that he is actually overpowered. He has been holding them back to stop unnecessary bloodshed, but with his subordinates' lives on the line and the fate of demonkind at stake, he decides to end things once and for all. Days later, Yuga returns with the girls and immediately pairs up with Levin to attack Yuki, but he easily blocks the attack and knocks them out without mercy. Mikana then unleashes her fireballs, and one actually catches Yuki by surprise, but he once again blocks it like it's nothing. As Cecilia rushes to heal them, Yuki starts laughing and tells Yuga to stop wasting his time because they will never be strong enough. The next moment, Yuga unleashes his most powerful attack yet, but as expected, Yuki blocks it. Despite this, they refuse to give up and say they have to defeat the Demon Lord, so Yuki offers to let 3 of them pass if they leave Cecilia behind. Yuki immediately refuses, but Mikana tells him to consider it because it's the life of one measly priestess or all of humanity. Cecilia gets shocked by the easy betrayal, but as Yuga tries to think of another solution, she tells them to leave and promises to keep fighting Yuki. Yuga reluctantly agrees and promises to come back before they run into the castle. Cecilia then tells Yuki that she already knows how powerful he is, but before he can respond, she attacks. He then begs for a timeout and introduces himself, but she gets confused and asks why he is being polite to his victim. Yuki explains that he would have unalived her minutes ago if he wanted, so Cecilia asks for the reason he wanted her left behind. After taking a breath, Yuki admits that he fell in love the first time he saw her and hasn't been able to stop thinking about her ever since. Naturally, she gets shocked but quickly rejects him, so Yuki sits on the ground like a homeless reject and says nothing else matters. Cecilia considers attacking him, but as he barely responds, she gets surprised and asks why he is not fighting back. Yuki then explains how miserable life as a demon warrior is because he is locked in his room during the day and only comes out to fight or raid human villages. When he says he no longer wants to be violent, Cecilia calls him a liar because all demons are evil, so he further explains that he is actually a human who got reincarnated into this world with demon powers. Cecilia remains confused, but as he decides to give up on life itself, she tells him to use his power for good and offers to show him the outside world. The next day, Yuga returns to the kingdom of Clarinus with news of the Demon Lord's defeat, and the king glazes them as expected before declaring a 3-day celebration in their honor. Around the same time, Yuki has also gotten to the outskirts of the kingdom, so he rips his horn and wings off to blend in. Moments later, while being carried through the city, Mikana tries to use their victory to get close to Yuga, but he ignores her to thank Cecilia because her sacrifice is the only reason they could get to the Demon King. By then, Yuki has just found the guild, so he walks over to the reception and asks for the registration form. An overworked corporate slave named Kramen then gives him the form before telling him to basically sign a waiver for when he gets unalived, like all the other wannabe heroes. After Yuki fills it, he explains how the rankings work and says that it usually takes a month to go from F rank to E, if he is strong enough to handle the basic quests and missions. He also warns Yuki not to lose his guild card because it will be difficult to get a new one now that the entire kingdom is celebrating. By nightfall, Yuki has already made quite a few bucks, so he decides to go even harder until he makes enough bread to be worthy of Cecilia's love. After a week, he returns to the guild to demand more quests, but Kramen flips out and asks why he can't get help from someone else. He then asks Yuki who he really is because no average loser goes from F to D rank in a week. Yuki immediately claims he is just an average guy who tries his best, so Kramen decides to stop the interrogation since he is not doing anything illegal. Right then, Cecilia walks in and tells Kramen to cancel the quest. He recognizes her, but she tells him to keep it on the down low before asking Yuki to follow her home. Much later, two guards see Cecilia's carriage approaching, and one of them gets excited until he sees Yuki stepping out of it. He immediately demands answers while holding a spear to Yuki's head, but thankfully, Cecilia explains that he is a friend. Minutes later, Cecilia serves Yuki some tea before telling him about the rumors circulating of some mysterious adventurer scaling through the ranks. She then tells him to quit the guild, but he gets surprised and asks why. Cecilia then reminds him that defeating the demon lord doesn't stop other demons from attacking humanity. Since the threat of demon kind is still very much alive, every human nation is seeking to improve its military, and they are all aiming for Yuga since he is the hero who defeated the demon king. Apparently, they have been sending baddies and all sorts of jewels to entice him, but Yuki quickly realizes that it's all a broader plan to make Yuga a pawn. Cecilia agrees that the nations are only trying to get an upper hand over each other, and they might eventually start fighting, all while dealing with demons as well. Since Yuki has the potential of becoming an S-rank adventurer, they will likely scout him as well, but the moment his true powers are revealed, he would become the greatest pawn and could quite possibly decide the fate of both demon and humankind. When Yuki reminds Cecilia that he still has bills to pay, she offers to find a way to hire him to work for her instead, but then he tells her to stop and says he will never accept any attempt to scout him since he only wants her. This makes Cecilia laugh, and after being thankful that he is still the dedicated simp that fell for her cakes, she tells him to keep being an adventurer. The next moment, her mum, Celia, shows up to see Yuki, and after she apologizes for how rude the guard was, her maid offers to break every bone in the overgrown dummy body. Celia then tells Sophia to leave and asks Yuki if he knows. While he wonders what she is talking about, Cecilia tries to stop her, but she explains that a bunch of guys, including Yuga, have asked for Cecilia's hand in marriage. Yuki immediately flips out and curses the anime gods for making Yuga hotter than him. However, Cecilia says that she has turned them all down, and Celia suddenly asks Yuki if he is ready to marry her. Yuki considers accepting, but after seeing the sad look on Cecilia's face, he tells Celia that he already asked her out and got rejected. So now, he is working to become a better man before trying again. Celia then says she was just testing him and would never give Cecilia away like a piece of meat. Yuki gets a little disappointed by this, but then she tells him to take care of Cecilia because he has proven himself as one of the good ones. After she leaves, Cecilia takes Yuki outside to talk, and he takes the opportunity to ask if they can be on a first-name basis. He immediately apologizes if it was disrespectful, but then she agrees, which makes him happy. Days later, Yuki ends up in a fierce battle with a creature called the cockatrice. After a couple of minutes of evading attack, he finally skins the lab experiment chicken and packs up for the day. The next moment, he dodges a surprise attack and realizes that his subordinates are the enemies, so he explains who he is to stop them. After they all express shock over him being alive, Duke flips out and demands to know why he suddenly vanished after the Demon Lord was defeated. Seek then says Duke became miserable since that day, and after begging budget-friendly Peter Pan to stop snitching, Duke once again asks for an explanation. Yuki then explains how he fell in love with Cecilia and got brutally rejected. He further explains his new life as a human and tells them to do whatever they want with their time, but they all refuse and decide to stick with him. Yuki immediately reminds them that he had to lose his horns and wings to fit in with humans, but they assure him that it will be just as easy for them, so he accepts. The next day, Cecilia gets pissed at Yuki for making Happiness cut off her harpy wings. After he spends a couple of minutes begging for her forgiveness, they head to the tea house, where Cecilia asks why they look nothing like the demons she is used to. Duke explains that he is actually a Dullahan, while Seek is a pixie and Happiness is a harpy. When Yuki suddenly asks why he is suddenly such a chatterbox, Duke admits that he always kept silent in the past because he hated Yuki's guts. Back then, Yuki absolutely refused to attack humans or indulge in the usual demon activity, despite the number of times Zekil would make a fuss about it. Eventually, everyone accepted that Yuki was just a weird demon, but Duke stormed into his room and refused to accept Yuki's stubbornness. That was until Yuki cracked his spine and made him a loyal subject. As Duke reminisces on the good old days, Yuki realizes that Happiness and Seek are missing, so they start searching the estate. Moments later, they find Celia rubbing Seek's head as he sleeps, and after she yaps about her love for the little ones, they ask if she saw a girl running around. Celia then says Sophia already took her inside, so they race into the mansion and find Sophia giving Happiness a crash course on how to be a maid. After Yuki asks Happiness why she is dressed like a maid, Sophia realizes her mistake and tells Happiness to go change, but she refuses and asks to work in the mansion. While they are all shocked to hear this, Sophia gets excited and offers to show her the servants' quarters. Afterwards, Seeks calls Happiness lucky since she gets to move into the mansion. While they keep talking about it, Celia tells Yuki that Cecilia will have tomorrow off, and since she rarely gets space to breathe, she wants him to show her a good time. The next day, Yuki shows up to the meetup spot and tries to act nonchalant, but the moment Cecilia shows up looking like she does in his wet dreams, his brain implodes. He manages to keep it cool and asks why she is wearing glasses, so Cecilia explains her genius plan to copy Superman's disguise. With that out of the way, they start by checking out Cecilia's favorite bakery, and after she suggests coming back later, they go flower shopping. At one point, Cecilia stops to pet a cat and calls it cute, but the only cute thing Yuki can think of is her face. Several minutes later, they get to an accessory store, but then Yuga spots them and tries calling out to Cecilia. Mikana immediately stops him because the locals would go crazy if they recognized her. After they walk over, Yuga asks Cecilia to hang out, but she declines and says she is already with Yuki. Yuga then takes a close look and asks if they know each other, but Yuki immediately denies it. After Yuga insists and drags Cecilia inside, Yuki hears Mikana complaining about her date being ruined. She then wishes him luck with Cecilia, and this makes Yuki think she is a good person until she says Cecilia might never say yes to an ugly peasant like him. After recalling that Yuga has already tried to marry Cecilia, Yuki heads inside to win her over with his demon Riz, but Yuga intercepts him every time and tries to show off his wealth. Yuga then tries to win with a nice necklace, but Yuga splurges on a super expensive jewel and tries to put it on for Cecilia. Unfortunately, he pulls off her disguise, and they all get swarmed by fans in seconds. After Yuki gets yeeted to the corner like a worthless side character, he starts chasing the crowd to find Cecilia, but then he finds other locals surrounding her teammate, Levin. Yuki quickly acts like he just saw the hero to distract everyone, and after taking Levin to a quiet alley, he shares some tips for the next time he gets stranded and turns to leave. Just then, a soft voice tells him to stop, so Yuki turns and realizes that zero testosterone voice he just heard belongs to Levin. He quickly realizes that this is why Levin stayed silent earlier, and after admitting that he feels insecure, Levin asks why he didn't laugh. Yuki then says it's nothing to be ashamed about, but as he turns to leave again, Levin stops him and asks if they can become friends. Yuki gets shocked by the sudden requests, but he ultimately accepts, right before recalling that he has to find Cecilia. He immediately runs back into town, and while he worries that Cecilia got tired of the failed date and left, she is also searching for him and thinking the exact same thing. Just then, she spots a boy crying over a bruised knee, so she heals him, but he continues bawling his eye out and begs for his mom. As she tries to cheer him up, Yuki pulls up and unleashes that inner clown he always tries to keep hidden. Cecilia cracks a quick smile before getting serious and yelling at him for playing with the little boy's trauma. Luckily, this actually cheers the boy up, so Yuki carries him on his shoulders so they can search for his mom. Along the way, Yuki asks Cecilia if this is all too much stress for her, but she claims it's no big deal, while hiding the fact that she has already caught a cold. Around the same time, Mikana tells Yuga to stop chasing after Cecilia to avoid another scene, but he insists on finding her and runs off while Mikana gets frustrated and heads home. The next day, Celia tells Yuki about the cold because Cecilia has been in her room all day. Naturally, he gets worried, but after she tells him that Yuga had been begging to see Cecilia earlier, Yuki gets pissed again. But she tells him not worry since Sophia made sure Yuga was escorted out. She then tells Yuki to go see Cecilia since he looked out for her yesterday. After Sophia escorts him to the room, he sits beside Cecilia and apologizes for ruining her one day off. She initially tells him not to blame himself, but he continues apologizing, so she tells him to make it up to her with a second date when she gets another day off. Yuki's brain cells fry from ecstasy as he immediately switches to Riz Lord mode and promises to give her the best day off. As she starts laughing, Sophia gets fed up and drags Yuki out of the room for interrupting Cecilia's rest before casually tossing him out of the mansion like a ragdoll. On his way out, Yuki runs into Levin, who then asks for advice on how to confess to his crush, given how insecure he is about his voice. After he explains that she is the only other person who doesn't laugh at it, Yuki reminds Levin that he's literally every girl's dream guy, and since he has finally found someone who likes his peacock voice, he has nothing to worry about. This gives Levin a confidence boost, so he thanks Yuki and decides to go for it. Yuki then realizes that Levin is heading inside the estate and fears that he just gave the best pep talk of the century to another smoking hot rival. While Raven heads inside to pursue his heart, Yuki freaks out at the thought of Cecilia falling for him. He reminds himself that Cecilia has said no to everyone until now, but after recalling that they were in the same party, his anxiety increases. The next moment, Raven walks out looking like a defeated warrior and says something about failing before heading out. Curious, Yuki tries to ask Cecilia what happened, but Sophia tells him to come back tomorrow because she is still resting. He then asks if she saw Raven come in, but Sophia explains that he actually came to see Happiness. Yuki then finds her sweeping a part of the estate and asks what happened between her and Raven. For some reason, Happiness suddenly gets emotional and runs off, so Yuki decides to try later before heading back home to tell Duke and Seek about it. After recalling all the times they had to drag Raven out of demon territory, Duke asks Yuki why he would let a human get close to Happiness. He insists that she probably hates humans because they usually capture her kind to steal their feathers. Turns out he had decided to join the demon army after saving Happiness from hunters. Despite this, Seek says she doesn't hate all humans because she was excited to start working in Cecilia's estate. Yuki agrees and says she definitely knows that Raven is a good guy. The next day, Yuki shows up at the guild, but instead of Kramen, he sees a regular receptionist who then reveals that Kramen is actually the vice guildmaster. After getting shocked, Yuki asks why he didn't show up, so the receptionist tells Yuki to check the hospital discreetly. Several minutes later, Yuki finds Kramen wrapped up like a mummy and asks what happened. After admitting that his wife rearranged his guts like prime Mike Tyson, Kramen explains how he spent an entire day looking for the best anniversary gift for her. By the time he finally got back, it was way past dinner time, so she attacked him, thinking he had forgotten about it. Surprised, Yuki asks if he is a useless weakling or if his wife is just some freak of nature. Kramen then explains that she is actually an A-rank adventurer like him, which is how they met and fell in love in the first place. Feeling bad, Yuki offers to heal his wounds, but Kramen stops him and says this is his one chance to enjoy getting nursed back to health by his wife. Just then, Sophia shows up to check on Kramen, and while Yuki struggles to believe that she is his wife, she fractures Kramen's skull for shining his pearly whites. Moments later, Sophia thanks Yuki for checking on Kramen and says Cecilia has been feeling a lot better, but when he asks to see her, Sophia says she is already out running errands. Yuki then asks if gifts are really that important to girls, but Sophia suddenly turns dark and asks if Kramen said something, so he claims he was thinking about Cecilia and runs off. Minutes later, Yuki fantasizes about being married to Cecilia, but he quickly snaps out of La La Land since he needs to find Raven. After eventually finding his room in the night storm, he mentions Happiness' name to revive the heartbroken simp, who then asks how he knows her. Yuki says he has known her for ages and asks Raven how he fell in love with her, so Raven narrates the day he saw 3 worthless thugs troubling her in a dark alley. He quickly swooped in and scared the thugs away, but after she thanked him, he responded and immediately regretted it because she had just heard his princess voice. When she suddenly called his voice beautiful and claimed she envied him, his heart glitched, but she ran off before he could say anything. Since he recognized her apron, he knew she would be working at Cecilia's mansion. Raven is also surprised that Yuki knows Cecilia, so he explains how he started a whole new life just to simp for her every day. Raven immediately starts singing his praises and wishes he could be so bold about his feelings for Happiness, but Yuki tells him not to worry because she just has some unresolved trauma. Raven still feels down about everything, so Yuki takes him into town to shop for gifts. After getting something for Cecilia, he convinces Raven to get something nice for Happiness as well. However, as soon as they finish, Mikana shows up and asks what they are doing at a jewelry store. Yuki easily admits that they are shopping for love, but Mikana already knows that he has it bad for Cecilia, so she asks Raven who his special girl is. When he refuses to speak, she admits that she shouldn't have laughed when she first heard his voice. After sensing that they might get exposed, Mikana suggests going somewhere private, so they head to a restaurant, but the guys immediately stuff their faces to avoid having a conversation. Mikana catches on and claims she had intel about Cecilia, so Yuki folds and begs her to spill. She starts by asking about his progress with Cecilia, and after he explains the current situation, she tells him to stop thinking Yuga is a threat because Cecilia apparently hates his guts. Turns out he always found a way to conveniently enter the bath whenever they were using it, and their trips always took forever because the shameless playboy couldn't say no to the ladies. This makes Yuki feel a little better, so Mikana asks about Raven's girl, but Yuki immediately defends him. Mikana then admits that she is just curious to talk about love stuff, but this makes Raven realize that something else is up. After he assures her that Yuki can be trusted, she makes Yuki promise to keep his mouth shut before saying that a certain demon kept defeating them at the Demon Lord's castle. Yuki panics since she is talking about him, but he listens as she explains how they had to lie to the locals living in the village they used as a base. Since Yuga's honor as a hero was at stake, they spent weeks cooking up stories to hide the fact that they were getting manhandled by one dude. Eventually, the village ran out of supplies to feed them and started seeing through the cracks, but that was when Yuki made the offer to trade Cecilia. While Raven and Yuga hesitated, she agreed to sacrifice Cecilia because it was the only way to restore Yuga's honor. Unfortunately, this made him resentful towards her, and they can't seem to get back to the way things were after all this time. When Yuki asks if she has considered telling all this to Cecilia, Mikana says it would be pointless since she probably hates her guts as well. Yuki then tells her to think about it because it can't be worse than how she currently feels. For once, Mikana agrees with him and admits that he is not totally useless before leaving. This also gives Raven some confidence, so he decides to talk to Happiness again. However, when they get to Cecilia's estate, Duke refuses to let Raven talk to her and says he can't be trusted. Yuki tries to defend him, but Raven steps up and admits that he doesn't even know what to say to Happiness. Just then, they spot Seek talking to Happiness, and Duke suddenly shoves Raven towards her before saying his hostility was just a test. As they watch, Duke gives Happiness the gift he bought and asks if they can be friends. After taking a moment to think, she says yes, making him the happiest simp on the planet. Will Yuki also get this lucky with Cecilia? Comment part 3 to find out, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.